I finally made it big on YouTube, y'all, and I got my Lamborghini to prove it. What's up guys, I'm Josh, this is Josh Builds Stuff, and this is a very large box. Usually I start these videos with a completed model in front of me, but I know this box is worth talking about, so I thought we should open it together. This, as you may have guessed by the title, thumbnail, and intro of the video, is the brand new Lamborghini Sian, which just came out at the beginning of June in 2020. If you can't see, there is a severely crushed Lego promo set. This was a free hot rod promo. A little sad that it's crushed, but that's not why we're buying this set. There's also a free little Lego City beach buggy. Both of these were free promos at the time that this was on sale. Bummed that that box is so crushed, but again, that's not why I bought it. All of 3 pieces of padding. So this is the beautiful box of the Lamborghini Sian. As you can see, it looks like the hood of a Lamborghini. It's in this classic, beautiful lime Lamborghini green. You've got a front grille. If you look at the sides of the box, the gold rim tires are on there. The back of the box looks like the signature tail lights of the Lamborghini Sian with the gold trim and the gold Lamborghini logo. This is a super cool, super minimalist box design if you really think about it. The actual details of the set are on the back of the box. So here we see all of the pertinent information to this set. This set, for those wondering, costs $380. It is not cheap, but it's kind of in line with the other large Technic cars that have come out in the last couple of years. This set consists of just under 3,700 pieces, is suitable for ages 18 plus, and again, came out at the beginning of June in 2020. So without further ado, let's crack open this box and look at the pieces inside. So aside from the box art obviously being unique, this is not typically how Lego boxes are made. Usually you'd have to crack open one side or the other. Oh, look at that. I did not know about this part. Usually you'd open one side or the other and then just have to pour pieces out. But this looks like what I think is the spine on the back of the car. And so this, it actually has individual ridges against the cardboard here. And these, I guess, are each little cardboard boxes, where I think we'll find the pieces. Each of these is modeled to look like carbon fiber, which is very cool. Ooh, and I happen to pick the right box. Look at those bad boys. That gives you an idea for the scale of the car that we're about to build. And this is even larger than I anticipated it being, but these beautiful Lamborghini style gold rims. I expect each of these interior boxes is similarly full of more pieces, so let's open those up and then get started on this build. Here it is, the completed model of the Lamborghini Sian FKP 37, and let me tell you, my first impressions of this set, obviously after having built it for about 3 days straight, this car and this set have exceeded my expectations in just about every way imaginable. Its size, its scale, the detail, the features. I was not expecting this large, this complex of a build when I first bought this set, and I'm very glad I didn't do a lot of research before purchasing this because I was just constantly surprised and excited the entire build. Now obviously there is going to be a lot worth talking about in regards to this model, so let me try to lay out a plan for this video. First, I think we'll talk about the main features of this set and how they compare to those on the car itself. Then I think we'll talk a bit about the build process of this set, which is obviously worth talking about because of its sheer complexity. Next, I'll share some of what I think are positives and negatives about this set, and spoiler alert, there aren't very many negatives because I think very highly of this set. Last, I think it'll be worth comparing this Lamborghini set to some earlier Lamborghinis that Lego has released, but it's not really much of a comparison just because of the sheer size and complexity of this set compared to those earlier models. If you want to jump to any of the specific points that I plan on talking about, the timestamps will be in the description below. Let's get started by talking about the unique features of this set. Alright, let's talk about some of the features of this car because there are many. So this car is not just an outer shell with nothing inside, it's actually full of stuff under here and here that make this car move. And what I mean is things like the steering wheel, first of all. I can turn the steering wheel, and as you can see, it turns the wheels. So this car has actual steering, which is pretty cool. The other thing there are some movable parts to this car, starting with the doors. As you can see, there's a small lever back here. When I push them, these signature scissor doors, as Lamborghini calls them, will open up, and those, of course, are only attached at the front bit there, so that's a pretty complicated piece of Technic machinery. Speaking of complicated Technic machinery, the actual Lamborghini Sian has a cool flush spoiler until it's raised, in which case it comes up. In this case, as you can see, I'm reaching for something under the passenger seat. I can pull a lever there, and you see that the spoiler will go up and down by a little, I guess I'll call it a lever, on the passenger side of the car, which is pretty complex because that means the mechanics have to pull from here all the way back to the spoiler itself. The hood on this car also opens and closes. As you can see, the engine is not in the front of this car. That's true to the actual design. It is a rear engine car, but the inside the hood is a little, what Lego calls an overnight bag. So a little space to store your luggage, and that boot space is probably not much bigger than that in the actual car. Another neat feature that is built in is as I move the car, you can see that it actually bounces. There is actual suspension in both the front and rear of the car, so as I push it up or down, it has quite a bit of bounce to it. Now let's talk about what I think is my absolute favorite feature of this car. If I remove this panel here, we can see that the engine is fully modeled in this car. And not only is it fully modeled, it is functional. And so I'll try to remove a couple pieces here so that we can see that happening, but this is where the V12 engine is housed. So as you can see, what I've done is I've removed a couple of these engine cover pieces, which are custom Lamborghini branded, and that reveals to us the V12 engine in here. You can see that there are actual cylinders or pistons in there which will move as the car moves. However, I'll try to find a good way to illustrate what's going on here because it is very cool. So forgive my shaky camera here. I'm going to try to demonstrate a lot of stuff going on. So as you can see, we have our V12 engine in the back here, and in the front is our interior. A couple of things to note here: there is a shifter knob here, as well as what I'm going to call paddle shifters in there, and I'll show you how those come into play right now. So right now I have the car put in what I am going to call the neutral position, and as I roll it forward, you notice the cylinders do not move. However, I am going to put the car in what I assume I'll call in drive, and I think I'm in first gear right now. That's right, there are gears built into the transmission of this car, and as I roll forward, you see those pistons moving, yet they're moving very slowly. So what we can do is shift up here, and like I said before, to the side of the steering wheel are paddle shifters. I shifted up there, and now when I roll forward, those cylinders move a little faster. So let's try shifting up a few more times. Like I said, this is an 8-speed transmission. I don't know how accurate that is to the actual car, but it's a nice round number for Lego. So I'm in second gear right now. I can go third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Now let's see when I roll the car forward. Pistons are moving a bit more. So if I bump this up twice more, I should technically be in 8th gear right now, and when I move the car forward, I'm moving this forward at the same speed every time. You can now see the pistons are really working. So this would be the equivalent of 8th gear, and there's more resistance in the tires I can feel as I move it forward, and those pistons really get moving. If I shift this car up one more time, that will reset it back to first gear, and we'll see as I roll it forward, again, those pistons barely move. That is so cool and so incredibly complex, it kind of hurts my brain to have an actual working 8-speed transmission inside of a Lego Technic car. So another great thing about this model is that even the designers themselves said they didn't want to hide all of this complicated machinery behind a wall, and so they left some windows, as they called them, to the mechanical parts of the car. As you can see up here is the front of the car. This is the driver's side, this is the passenger side. Here is our paddle shifter, and here is all of that gear work. It's hard to tell, but there are actually 2 or 3 layers of gears stacked on top of each other, all within this box. So you can see I can actually paddle shift from here, and when I do, you'll see those gears actually moving, and there are 8 unique positions that they can take, which make the cylinders roll at a slightly different speed depending on what gear you're in. You can also turn this gear here, or I guess any one of the gears that are visible here, and it will turn this main axle of the car, which will spin all 4 wheels at the same time, which is super cool. So here is a close-up of that gear change animation again. Obviously you can see there are 8 unique positions as I shift through these, and it is truly a Lego mechanical marvel in my opinion. So if I were ranking the build of this set from easy to hard, I would say this was extremely difficult. Maybe I'm just not super used to building Technic sets. I usually build the more traditional Lego sets, but this set lived up to its age recommendation of being 18 plus because I'm 30 plus, and this build took me a long time and I made some mistakes which made it take even longer. So yeah, for the first time an 18 plus set should have actually been aged as such. In terms of hours, which is how I prefer to measure my time, I think this took upwards of 20 plus hours to build. As a comparison, I think this probably took about as long as it took to build the Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon, which is significantly more pieces and significantly more expensive, but I think just the complexity of the little detailed bits that all come together, the fact that it's Technic, the fact that it has so many different components to it, I think it all came together to just take a long time. So even though the car itself is symmetrical down the middle, I didn't find any different parts of the build that repetitive to do. Even though you have to build the left and the right side to be the same, I think Lego broke it up in such a way that made the whole process feel pretty engaging. I mentioned that even I made a couple of mistakes while building this set, and really it was nothing huge. I would just get to the end of a section or the end of a bunch of bags and realize that I had 1 or 2 pieces, or that I had one piece that was the wrong size, and so I had to go scrolling back up through the instructions. And really the way that the Lego Technic sets are put together, they are not designed to be taken apart very easily, and so I found myself having to pause what I was doing and dig into one little section to pull out a piece that I realized was placed wrong and I needed for something else, and then try to finagle all the pieces back together. And it was a bit frustrating, but that's obviously not Lego's fault. That was my own for not paying close enough attention. Overall, the build was a lot of fun, even though it was very complex. The biggest downside is that you push in a billion little pins and your fingertips really start to ache after over 20 hours of building. So let's talk likes and dislikes about this set, and let's talk about the likes first because there are much more of those. Obviously, we already talked about all of the great mechanical features in this set. Those are definitely on the likes list. The other thing about this set that I like is its sheer size and weight and density, if I could say that about a set. This is not a shell of a car with nothing inside. This set is dense all the way through, and it's heavy for that reason. It is also 23 inches long, almost 2 feet long, which is huge and much bigger than I expected when buying this set. But for the price point, it definitely makes you feel like you're getting your money's worth when you end up with a huge model in the end. The other thing we have to talk about is the color, and I think Lamborghini made the right choice by going with this signature lime green. If you look at a lot of the promo photos of the actual car, especially the ones that Lego included with this set, you'll see that it's more of a yellow green or more of a brownish green than this bright lime green. but I'm sure LEGO did not already have that as one of their existing colors, and so making it in this lime green is definitely a classic signature Lamborghini color, and so if I had to pick a color of a Lamborghini car that they were going to produce, I would have definitely said this bright lime green. Obviously, LEGO was considering some different color options because in the instruction booklet they included this picture that shows this model in a variety of colors. Another thing I like about this set, I'm just going to call it the entire front end section. There's obviously a lot going on here with multiple layers of different wing pieces, but if you compare that to the actual car, that's what it really looks like. One of the standout features on the actual Sian is these unique looking front headlights. They have this interesting looking triangular design with these LED strips, and LEGO achieved that same look with 3 long pin pieces put together, and so I think it works pretty well from the right angle. Moving from the front to the middle of this car, the interior is definitely worth talking about. LEGO definitely spent some time getting these bucket seats to work and look really cool and sporty. They've got a two-tone look to them with half green, half gray pieces. They even have the Lamborghini decal on the headrest. The interior dash section is also kind of detailed. The passenger dash doesn't have much detail to it. The driver's side has a cover going over what is one of the few decaled pieces in this set that's very hard to see, but it is actually a pretty detailed looking car HUD piece with the speedometer and some other gauges in there. It's unfortunate that it's so hidden away, but at least the steering wheel is super visible, and like we talked about earlier, the shifting knob is right there in the center. Continuing towards the back of the car, this strip of black along the ceiling on the actual car is actually a glass roof piece there, so that I'm glad matches up with the real car. And then of course we already talked about the engine compartment here, but the fact that it has this removable panel that covers up the engine and then you can lift it up and have a fully detailed engine. In addition to the mechanics of the engine, it's nice that they included a bunch of pipe work down the side that makes it look like a real engine, and of course you can see the springs of the suspension piece working. I just love that you can open this up and actually expose a lot of these very complex engine components. The taillights on the actual car are 6 hexagonal lights, and in this case LEGO has replicated that with 12 triangular pieces wedged together, and so I think the overall look is pretty convincing and definitely tells you which Lamborghini we're looking at by looking at this rear end. Obviously, one of the things that makes the actual car and this LEGO version really stand out are these big gold rims. On the real car, they look very similar to this because LEGO actually created this new wheel piece specifically for this model, and I think that was the right decision because it just wouldn't have looked right with something else. In addition to the new wheel piece, you can look through the wheels and you see an actual brake disc pieces inside each wheel in a bright red color, and I think that looks super cool, just kind of peeking through the gold, and it just adds an extra layer of realism. I also love that the exterior of this car is not covered with racing decals or other stickers. The actual Sians will be entirely customizable by whoever's buying them, but in this case, I think that would have made the entire look a little too busy, especially since this is built out of Technic panels that are layered on top of each other, and so it's already a little busier than the actual smooth lines that you can achieve in a real car. And so I'm glad that LEGO really just reserved logos and one gas cap as places where they'll put a decal. In terms of dislikes, I really only have one, and it probably won't even show up on camera. I said I like the color of this car, and I do. However, you might notice that there is a very, very minuscule, barely noticeable difference in the green color between a couple of the panel pieces. And so you might be able to see it in a couple of these larger pieces, but some of these are a slightly brighter lime green. Some of these are a little more yellowish green, especially where some of the pins meet the larger plate pieces. Again, I don't think this will come across very much on camera, and it barely comes across in person, and you would have to be under the exact right lighting conditions and looking at the car at the exact right angle to notice any difference whatsoever. But to the layman or anyone glancing at this car, I don't think they'd notice. So that one very minuscule thing is a dislike of mine. There are a couple things that I think some people might consider a negative about this set, but it's not necessarily something I dislike. I mentioned the size of this set is great to me, but not everyone has the room to display a 2-foot long, almost 1-foot wide car that weighs, I don't know, 5-6 pounds. But not everyone has the space for a set like this. Also, not everyone has the money for a set like this. So I would hope that whoever was planning to buy this would take its size into account, because I think they would really want to display it, and it'd be a real shame if they got home and decided they didn't have space for this and threw it in a closet. This is also not a personal dislike, but maybe a nice to have thing. I mentioned that this rear panel opens up, which is great, and you can see the engine in there, but it is very difficult to actually remove parts of the engine, and I wish that was a little easier, since seeing the pistons actually move is a super cool feature, and of course it gets covered up. So that's about all of the negatives or downsides I can really think of about this set, and even some of those I had to think pretty hard about just to come up with something. I think the last thing I want to do in regards to this set is compare it to a couple of earlier Lamborghini sets that LEGO released in the last couple of years. Before me I have the Lamborghini Urus and the Lamborghini Huracan Evo Super Trofeo something or another. It has a long complicated name. These two were $50 together. They came in the same set as a part of the new Speed Champion sets that are 8 studs wide. This is a poly bag of, I believe, the same Lamborghini Huracan as the bigger version there, but it also came out around the same time as these others. One thing that is worth noting is that the Urus does use the same colored pieces that our Lamborghini Sian uses, that bright neon green. I had said in my review of these cars that I wish they came out with a classic lime green style Lamborghini. I also said I wish that they came out with a larger version, so wishes do come true, kids. This is also an example of one of the cars being plastered with decals and stickers and logos, which I think takes away from the set. This set looks a lot cleaner because it doesn't have all of that. Like I said, these are almost not worth comparing, and I barely compared them, so I think I fulfilled my end of the bargain. So my overall score of this car, if I had to give it a score of 1 to 10, is probably a 9.9 out of 10, maybe a 10 out of 10. What would I do to improve this? I said it before, it's practically witchcraft and magic that they could come up with this intricate, incredible, crazy mechanical design and still make it look like a new car. I think it blew me away in every aspect that I could have asked it to. And so, yeah, this car ranks very, very highly for me. Would I recommend getting this set if you were on the fence? Yes, if you have the money to buy it, if you have the time to build it, and if you have the space to display it. I think those are 3 important factors when looking at this set. If you have already bought the Porsche and the Bugatti that came out in the same scale, I think this car would look incredible displayed next to those. However, if you were to offer me those cars right now, even for a discount, I might still be hesitant just because it took a long time to build. Building with Technic is pretty different from building with traditional LEGO, and so it's something to keep in mind if you usually build traditional and not Technic. That being said, of course I would say yes in the end if someone was trying to give me the Porsche or the Bugatti. I don't think either are made anymore, and they're probably very expensive on the secondhand market, so obviously I would say yes. So if you were in the market for a new Lamborghini Sian and you thought, oh drats, all of the 63 that are going to be produced have already been claimed, then this might just be the next best thing. Even though the LEGO version is also currently on back order, so you can't technically get either car right now, but when you can, I'm sure this will be the much more affordable option. I am, of course, very interested to hear your opinions on this new set. What do you like about it? Do you have any dislikes about it? LEGO had also teased the release of a new Lamborghini set for quite a while, and I'm interested to know if this is the car that you hoped it would be. A lot of people were saying they wanted a more recognizable car, like the Aventador or the Huracan, so I imagine there might be some disappointment that they chose such a rare version of a Lamborghini. As always, let me know what you think in the comments below. I do usually include a speed build with my review videos, but for the sake of time and maybe for the sake of your interest, I think I'll include that either as a separate video or hold it till later. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.